Welcome back, everyone, to the Reading by Candlelight Book Club at Molly's Cottage. I'm here with Sarah Clutton, author of The Remarkable Truths of Alfie Bains, which features in the May General Fiction Book Box. Welcome, Sarah. It's lovely to have you with us.
Thanks so much, Fiona. It's lovely to be here.
Before we begin, here's a little bit about Sarah. She lives in the Southern Highlands of New South Wales with her family. She studied psychology and law, so she's really smart. She worked as a litigation lawyer, research assistant, judge's associate, philanthropic foundation manager, and a ghostwriter. Sarah was the national winner of the Dymocks Fiona McIntosh Commercial Fiction Scholarship in 2018. And in between freelance writing gigs, she's events manager of her local chapter of Rural Australians for Refugees. The Remarkable Truths of Alfie Bains was published on the 29th of April, and its clever and endearing protagonist, Alfie, is already working his way into the homes and hearts of readers everywhere. Now, Sarah, can you give us a quick spoiler-free pitch of your book?
Absolutely, I'd love to. The book is about Alfie Bains, as you said. He's almost 10. He's incredibly clever. And he's been living in Ireland with his mum, Amelia, for the last few years. When she becomes sick, she admits to him that she's been not truthful for his entire life, and she does actually have a family back in Tasmania. She's never talked about this family, and he's always thought that his father, who he's never met, was a sperm bank donor. So when they head back to Tasmania to meet with the estranged family of Amelia, he turns up on his maternal grandmother's doorstep and announces he's her grandson. She almost falls over. But he quickly discovers that in this small township, everybody is hiding something, and that probably his real father is somebody in the town. And he sets out on a quest to discover who it is, in the process unearthing a lot of buried secrets.
It's such a great premise. I just feel like this story had everything. It had endearing and intriguing characters. It had a mystery, which I love, multiple point of views. And one of my favorite things, it had, would you call it a dual timeline, or were they flashbacks? It was dual, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was mostly set in the current day, but then we flash back to about 10 or 11 years earlier. Yeah.
Yes, and I love that as well, because I love seeing what happened before, and it just has everything in it. I just loved it so much. Now, you live in what your bio calls a storybook village.
Yeah, I
I
do.
love the sound of that.
It looks like a storybook village. It's sort of been voted the most popular little tourist village in Australia, I think, and it's called 𝘈𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘢. It's a heritage town or village. It's only got a few, maybe 3,000 people or something. Maybe, no, that sounds like way too many. I can't remember. My brain's gone tonight, but it's very small. It's Georgian, so there are lots of beautiful 1800s sandstone buildings. There's a massive old jail. There's beautiful heritage houses, and there is Australia's longest continuously licensed pub in 𝘈𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘢. So this is very exciting because we get to go and have pub dinners down the road. But it's really gorgeous little village. And I live there with those beautiful four seasons that we have in the Southern Highlands, because it reminds me of Tasmania, where the book is set. And I can't live in Tasmania because my husband works in Sydney. So it's a bit of a sort of compromise.
But you spent your early years on a farm in northwest Tasmania. Is that why you set the book in Tasmania?
Yeah, any excuse to come to Tassie and write and get away is like really what I do. And so I have been in Stanley a few years ago during lockdown, actually, and I was actually writing a different book about a witch, and it was kind of witchy and woo-woo and a bit sort of dark, and there was kind of murder mystery happening. But anyway, it was a bit depressing at the time. It was lockdown, and I was in Stanley, this beautiful fishing village on the northwest, and I'd written a scene about a farmer and this little boy knocking on her door, and I just thought, oh, maybe I could write that book instead and find out who this little boy is, and that could be a really fun thing to discover. And so I still set the book in Stanley because that's where I was, but I called it Beggar's Rock in the book. So there's a few little fictional variations to Stanley, but we use the rock, which is the nut in Stanley, and the big heritage home, and that's on the bluff, and lots of readers will be familiar. If they read it, it will feel very much like Stanley.
Now, Alfie's such an adorable character, and I love that he identifies as a very interesting person, because I feel like we should all believe that about ourselves.
Yeah, he's very honest.
And the chapters in his point of view are definitely my favourites. Did he come to you fully formed, or did you create him as you wrote?
Interestingly, and I can't really say this of many or any other characters I've ever written, but he was fully formed. He just popped into my head. So the second chapter in the book is written in Alfie's point of view, and that was just there, and I wrote it. I wasn't intending to write in Alfie's point of view originally. It was from the perspective of the two grandmothers. But then I was being mentored through the book, and my mentor said, look, you can't have a book called, at that point it was called The Truth About Alfie, without giving Alfie his own point of view. And he'd been in the chapters with the grandmothers, there was some dialogue, so I knew a little bit about what he sounded like. I knew he was very bright. But then I thought, I'll give it a go to write in a child's voice. I haven't done that before. And there he was right there on the page. And that first chapter of Alfie's is almost word for word how it came out in its first draft. Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow. Because he just pops.
Yeah, he's a great voice. And I think that's what publishers said when I was talking to them about it, that voice is so strong. And that's really rare for a writer. For me, like, that's really lovely to have that, because when you're writing, sometimes you really struggle to create your characters. And also, I think when my agent said to me before we were, putting it out there to publishers, she said, you know what, I think I want 4 more chapters in Alfie's voice, because when he's not on the page, we really miss him. And she sort of said, I suggest, sprinkle them in through here. And so when I sat down to write those 4 chapters, he was right there, and it was really easy, and because he's so fun to write, actually.
And he is funny as well.
Yeah, he's really funny.
I just love how quick he is. And one of the other things I loved as well, I'm one of 4 sisters. So I really enjoyed the dynamic between the 3 sisters in the novel, like Alfie's grandmother, Penny, and her sisters, Hilary and Rain. You had me chuckling at times. Did you base their relationships on anyone that you know?
Not directly, but I'm one of 4 sisters as well. And, my mum is one of 4 sisters, and I'm really close to all my family, actually. And so, I've got, on that Tassie side of the family where there's 17 cousins, and most of them are girls. And, we are really sort of surrounded by sisterly relationships. And so it's really not hard to kind of delve into the way sisters treat each other and the way they kind of bounce off each other, and that those patterns of behavior that sort of come in terms of like the way the relationships work, and the way that, who you reveal things to in your sisterly relationships, one or the other at a different time. So, they were just characters I created. And I think 2 of the sisters, the older one, Hilary, and the younger one, Rain, are quite mad. And that's kind of fun to do as a writer, because it gives you a bit of scope to kind of like enjoy yourself.
Yes, definitely. You definitely had fun with them. And I think, poor Penny and her middle child syndrome.
Yes, exactly. That's me.
No, sorry, I'm the eldest. Sorry, not really. Nothing like her. You must have been so happy with your book cover, because it's so gorgeous.
The book cover is gorgeous. Yeah, I had so they had an original one which was much plainer and kind of different and very sweet. And this one is really sweet too, but there are some really dark parts in the middle of the book that, each of our characters is grappling with grief or loneliness and other quite difficult things that I won't go into here. But the first version did not reflect any darkness or difficulty at all. And I just felt it wasn't quite there. And so I sort of said that, and they came back with this cover, which has the kind of the mountain sort of signifying the quest, and the dark greeny blacks, which is kind of like there are some more difficult themes there, but it's really beautiful, and it's an uplifting and happy ending, and I wanted readers to know that. And I think the cover reflects every bit of what is inside.
Yes, because I feel it has a lovely mystical quality to it. It reminds me of The Little Prince.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I really like, yeah, I think it's gorgeous. I was like, your readers are going to be, but I was definitely blown away with the number of fully rounded and beautifully drawn characters you created in Alfie Bains. So I suppose Alfie was probably your favorite to write. Who was
Mm.
your favorite after Alfie?
Well, there's a girl called Harper in the book, and she's quite fun because she represents my rebel self and the person that I'd quite like to be, but I don't have enough bravery. I really enjoyed spending time with Cynthia, who is the other possible grandmother of Alfie, who he decides might be his grandmother, and he starts to spend time with her. And I really like Cynthia. She's somebody who has a very strong arc in the book, and I think most readers don't really like her at the beginning, but then they come to like her quite a lot at the end. And I think we see the struggle she has. And I just, my heart was with her because, it's a hard thing to deal with, what she's had to deal with so many times over.
Yes, no,
Keep
I have such a
over.
soft spot for Cynthia, and I liked her character from the start because I kind of feel like she's very no nonsense.
Mm.
And also you've got to I just felt for her, like you said, we can't go because of the spoilers. We can't say what she's gone through, but yeah, she was wonderful, and of course, I absolutely loved Alfie, and I think that he's one of the most endearing novel characters that I've read for ages. For me, he's up there with Trent Dalton's Eli Bell from Boy Swallows
Oh,
Universe.
that's lovely.
Oh, definitely. I truly hope this gets adapted for the screen one day because it has such an Australian flavor to it, and you can imagine it. You couldn't imagine it set anywhere else, and with the sprawling beauty of Tasmania and this small, clever, enterprising young character in Alfie, I think it'd be perfect. So fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
Yeah,
Fingers
no, it's
crossed it
very,
happens.
I'm with you.
And like I said, I mean, your characters are so vivid. Do you find yourself more drawn to writing character, or did the setting or the plot came first?
Well, the setting definitely came first because I was there, and I'd like to write small towns because I live in a small town, and I just find that quirkiness and that smallness of life can be really big. It can lend itself to big stories in a really in a way that I feel I can authentically explore because I live in a small town and I know how those relationships can develop. So I feel confident writing small town stories. Um, so the setting was there because I was there. The story wasn't really there. I had a character, I had a boy and a grandmother on a farm in Stanley. And I had a boy who very quickly was obvious to me was a genius. So Alfie is a genius for your listeners. That's going to become obvious very quickly. He's got an IQ of 158 or something like that. And he's super literal. So he's very black and white as well. And so he sees the world in a very unique way. And so character sort of started to develop from Alfie and Penny. And then I thought, oh, who am I going to throw in here? And what is the story? And very quickly I realized, because I do like to write a mystery, I've written a lot, I've had 2 books published through digital first. So this is my debut in traditional publishing, but I've had 2 books published with British publisher Bookouture, and they were both domestic suspense. So suspense is something I like to write. But I decided I wanted to write in a different genre this time, and really because I also love writing humor. So I wanted to bring that in, and warmth. And that was something I hadn't really done a lot of before. So I thought, what story lends itself to humor, warmth, but also a mystery? And because I like to dig into deep issues, you know, I suppose as, you know, I had a little short stint in the criminal courts. And so you know, you saw a lot of like really quite distressing things there. And I like to just kind of uncover those issues that I've been exposed to. And so there are some really very dark things in there, but those develop through character, you know, which character has been exposed to this life event and which character has been exposed to that. And that sort of forms plot. But the only thing that really drove the plot was I knew that I wanted the climax to end in a very big town event. So the Historical Society was formed very early on, and we open really very early at a Historical Society meeting, and we meet lots of the people. And I knew that they were planning this huge 100-year anniversary, and it was going to be the biggest thing the town had ever seen, because that kind of an event lends itself to a wonderful climax.
Yes.
And so that was really all I had. I knew Alfie was looking for his dad, and I knew he was a genius, and I knew that it was in this town, which was small, and I knew there was this big event coming up. So that was really all I had. And then I just wrote.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing that all of that just came out of just such bare bones. Fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It took me a while. It took me a year and a half, probably.
And what do you want readers to feel after they finish reading your book?
Well, I think Catherine Collette was talking to me in Melbourne the other night at an event, and she said, "Oh, there's lots of karma in your book. You feel as though the good people get what's good and the bad people get what's coming to them." And, you know, life's short, and really we want to feel like that's possible. And so I want you to walk away feeling like all is right in the world for the good people. That's what I want. Yeah.
It's a very satisfying feeling.
Yeah. So that's maybe what I don't know. Maybe be entertained. Yeah.
Now, do you plot? So you don't plot anything out. You just discover the story as you write.
Well, I plot a bit. Like I do sort of think, okay, well, how am I going to get to this big town event? Who are these people? And as the months roll on, I'll have big long rolls of white butcher's paper, and I'll do, you know, this character arc and that character arc and this timeline and that timeline and how they're going to intersect and which character needs to sort of act in this way for me to move the story that way. And so I do a lot of plotting as I go. So I sort of know where I am and sort of know where I'm going, but it'll, like today I threw out a whole bunch of notes that was probably 4 years old or 3 years old. And I thought, oh, there's a character I'd forgotten I made up because they're not in the book. And that thing didn't happen. But, you know, it's trial and error. You throw out things and they don't land, and you try again. And, you know, it's a very long process, but it's fun as well. You know, it's a privilege to do it.
Did you learn anything about yourself when you were through the process of writing the novel?
Well, this time I learned patience because I suppose no one was waiting for this novel. I didn't have a contract. And so there was a point when I was probably halfway through that I stopped for 6 months. And then I was being mentored. I paid a mentor to help me because I thought, oh, I'm terrible without a deadline. So I sort of reiterated my view that I'm terrible without a deadline. But once I had that mentoring going again, I started again. And once I knew I had a good story, I had to learn patience because I wanted to get an agent, and I hadn't had an agent before, and I'm very impatient. So having a fully formed story in your back pocket and then thinking, okay, how am I going to get an agent now, instead of just sending it off to the slush piles like I did the first time, that is tiring because, you know, you send it to, I sent it to some in the UK where I'd been having, my mentor happened to be from the UK. So she's like, I'll send it to these ones. So then I sent it to, you know, half a dozen there. And I got requests for full manuscripts from probably 3 of them, and then they wait. That's months, then you're like, "Oh, they've got my full manuscript if we don't hear from us in 3 or 6 months or whatever." And you're like, "Oh, okay." And then in the end, you're like, "Oh, look, I'm just going to send it out to Australian agents because maybe I should be really just doing Australian agents." And then you do that and you get the same thing, and someone asks you for a full manuscript and you think, "Oh, but I haven't heard from them, and what am I doing? And should I follow them up?" And I'm just so impatient, and I just like, hurry up. But you learn a lot of patience. Mm.
I don't think you're impatient at all. I think that the publishing industry is incredibly slow.
So slow. And then, I signed a contract for a 2-book deal nearly 2 years ago. So so then I had to wait for 20 months for my book to come out. So you learn patience. You do.
But it's here now, so that's all good.
Yeah. And in the meantime, I've written another one. So that comes out next year, hopefully. I'm just working on I get the structure letter back next week.
Oh, excellent. Are you allowed to tell us what it's about?
It's about an antiquarian book dealer who
Ooh, I love it already.
is running from her past. So it's set in a village, much like the one I live in here. But we also fly across to the UK and find out some things that have happened there 50 years earlier. So there's a bit of historical fiction there. It's a dual timeline. It's actually a triple timeline. It's a little
Ooh,
bit, that may be pulled out. I don't know. It's quite complex and probably too complex at the moment. I'm probably confusing myself. But yeah, it's currently working title is The Bookshop of Buried Pasts.
ooh,
So
I love the title too.
yeah, so let's see if that lasts. Who knows? But it's about it's set in 2 bookshops on each side of the world.
Oh, I love it already.
Oh, okay, great.
Can't wait to read it. Oh my goodness. It sounds great. Now, do you have any writing rituals or routines?
Not so much, really. I mean, the only thing I probably do is I'm an early riser. So really I get up, I make coffee, and then I go to my office for a couple of hours straight away without sort of stopping or patting the dog or eating breakfast. I just go straight up, and at 6 or 6:30, I'll be at the desk for, an hour or two just to get that first bit done. And then, might have to drop someone at school or do other things, and then I go back for the morning after breakfast and do another few hours. So that's really, I can write anywhere. I can write in a coffee shop, anywhere really. It's more about deadlines. If I've got a deadline, I've never missed one, and that works for me. So that's about it. Yeah.
And do you have any advice for anyone out there who wants to get published?
Well, if you like me, I love feedback. So I go to courses. I do lots of courses where you sort of swap each other's work and give each other feedback. I think that's really handy. So going to something like the Fiona McIntosh masterclass is great because you learn, and that it's also an excellent way to have an immediate writing community, which is fun because you share all your journeys. But join a writing group and swap work, be open to feedback. And then if you feel, maybe do a novel writing course like I've done too. They help you learn structure and so on. And just learn patience is probably another one. But yeah, doing, I've probably been working on it for a good 10 years. And before I got, that's not true, but I guess my first novels got published pretty quickly, but I'd been trying to write kids' stuff before then unsuccessfully because I thought my memory wasn't good enough to hold a whole book in it. So I'd start with picture books and kids' books, but nobody wanted my picture books and kids' books. So I thought, oh, well, I'll try it for a novel. And that but I had been doing courses and learning to write, and I'd started a master's and all of those things. And I think you've got to do the learning to write, because it'll always be bad at first, and you just get better and better if you practice.
I think that's really good advice. And after everybody reads Alfie Bains, nobody is going to think that you're terrible at writing.
Well, I mean,
They're
I
going
always
to be
enjoy,
happy that you gave up the children's books. They will.
yeah. Well, I think I'm my own worst critic, maybe.
Now, what books and writers inspire you?
Um, well, I mean, I love a bit of Kate Atkinson. She's a British writer, and I love her mysteries, her sort of Jackson Brodie mysteries. Terrible name, but like great, great, great writer. What she does for me and what I learned from her is that you can deal with really difficult topics in a way that it can still be amusing and respectful, but with levity and humor. And that is a really fine line, and one that you have to probably do a bit of work on if you want to do that, because humor is, it can go wrong. And so you've got to work out where the line is. And so reading in that area space is good. So I love Kate Atkinson. And Leanne Moriarty does that amazingly well too. Nothing is dealt with in a heavy way, and I think that's what I enjoy. I don't enjoy things that are too heavy. So yeah.
And your humor is excellent. Have you always been funny?
I'm not, according to my kids, no.
Kids don't think I'm funny either. Just think it's just a mum thing.
Exactly.
They think you're funny at
They
all.
think I'm daggy.
Yes.
But we think we're funny, Fiona. That's the
We
main.
do. We do. I do. And they do not. Well, that's time on our interview. My goodness, that went so quick. I'd like to thank our author, Sarah Clutton, for chatting with me and for being Reading by Candlelight's May general fiction book box author. And congratulations to Sarah, whose book box was sold out only halfway through the month.
Oh my goodness, that's so good.
It was too popular.
Oh, that's so great. Well, it's very exciting. I got a photo today that it was on the bestseller stand at Sydney Airport, so that made me feel extremely happy.
Congratulations, that's amazing too. And if you missed out on this book box, Sarah's book is available in all good independent bookshops and online and in airports, obviously. Now, The Remarkable Truths of Alfie Bains is a truly heartwarming tale of family and the ties that bind. This is one of the loveliest stories I've read in a while, Sarah. It was such a delight to read. It made me laugh. It made me cry. I was utterly enchanted by the character of Alfie. I dare anybody to read it and not let Alfie Bains into their hearts. But you've written a story. It's got such emotional depth, and its its protagonist is irresistible. And so I just know that this is going to be a favorite read for those in the Reading by Candlelight community, and it's definitely become one of mine. I can't wait to recommend it to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fiona. Thank you for having me.
So thank you all for coming along tonight, watching us live. And if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast, I do hope you've enjoyed this episode. Let us know what you think in the Reading by Candlelight Facebook group or on socials. And thank you again, Sarah, for chatting with me.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm wishing everyone happy reading and goodbye until the next Reading by Candlelight Book Club.